And thank you for joining us once again here on Talk of the Town. Right now we're going to be talking about something very serious that many of you right now might be dealing with out there, and that is organ failure. And we have here Mark Johnson, and we also have Jim Quill. But Mark Johnson is from LifePoint, so we're going to let Mark introduce himself, LifePoint, and we're going to talk about organ failure, organ donations, the problems, and some of the solutions. So, Mark, if you could tell our viewers a little bit about the basic purpose of LifePoint.
Well, LifePoint is the federally mandated nonprofit organization that is the recovery organization for organ and tissues in South Carolina. But we also work to educate people about the need for the transplantation of organs and tissues to be transplanted. Every 11 minutes, somebody is added to that transplant waiting list in the nation.
And I just wanted to point out, you're going to be on this segment here for roughly 10 minutes. So let's say somebody just a moment ago was diagnosed.
Right.
And by the end of our interview together, another person will be diagnosed. So it's happening that rapidly.
Exactly.
And we want to talk about some of the national numbers as well. How many people would you say currently are on the list waiting at this moment for an organ?
There's over 110,000 people right now in the nation waiting for a transplant. About 1,000 in South Carolina are in need of a transplant. Jim is a transplant recipient. He was one of the lucky ones that got a transplant, but not everybody's lucky. Every 90 minutes, somebody dies waiting on a transplant.
That is unbelievable. And when you talk about 110,000 people, we were talking just a little bit before the show began about trying to put that number in perspective a little bit. And I know we have a lot of sports fans here in South Carolina. Can you help give them a little general idea of that number?
Well, think about Williams-Brice Stadium or Death Valley up at Clemson. Those hold fewer people than are waiting on the transplant waiting list right now. That's an enormous amount of people in this country.
And when we say waiting, that means they are currently in dire need of an organ,
right,
and without which they're terminal.
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about what organs are generally or most commonly needed out there.
The number one in South Carolina and pretty much everywhere in the nation is the kidney. Hypertension, high blood pressure, and diabetes eventually work on those kidneys to where they fail. And once they fail, you go on dialysis, or you get a transplant, or you go on dialysis until you get the transplant. But that is what is greatest in need. About 90% of the people in South Carolina that need a transplant need a kidney transplant.
Well, and I just lost a member of my family within the past 3 weeks or so due to complications from diabetes, and it was her kidney that ultimately failed on her, and she was actually on the list and didn't make it. So I understand very personally how large this problem is and what it's like for the person who is waiting. And I just want to mention again, when we get back to numbers, I lost one person 3 weeks ago, but 18 people a day, 18 families a day are losing someone while they wait.
Right.
And that is a shame. So we really want to see what we can do to help out. What are some of the solutions that LifePoint is working on, and what are some of the partnerships that you have with other organizations, and what are some of the things that locals here in the Low Country can do to help out?
Well, we have a campaign that we're working on with the South Carolina Hospital Association to get the hospitals across the area to engage the businesses, to do some education in businesses to get people to sign up. We call it the Scrubs program. And we're working through that through the end of the year and hopefully beyond that. But April is Donate Life Month, which is why we're on here with you to talk about the need in general, focus that need of people signing up on the registry. You know, a lot of people say, well, I can't get involved. Well, it doesn't take a lot to get involved to become an organ and tissue donor. Just think about it. If you agree on it, you can sign up on the donor registry, which is at our website, every11minutes.org. Takes 5 to 10 minutes to do. And if you do that, you can save a life through organ and tissue organ transplantation and improve lives. There's so many people out there that need tissue transplants, and that is a huge thing. That tissue transplantation can help people with breast reconstruction after mastectomies, after breast cancer. A lot of people don't really understand that. They think of only burn victims need skin and transplantation, but that's not the case.
All right. Now, and I want to talk to you, Jim, for just a moment, because you've been in that unique position where you were actually waiting for organs. What was that time like? And I also want to know what it was like for you when you found out you had a donor.
Yeah. Well, I waited 5 years for transplant. I was listed, actually at the time of my waiting and getting listed, the allocation system was a little bit different. It's changed since. But at that time, my doctor sent me to be listed because he knew that my health was deteriorating. And by the time that I truly needed the transplant, if I hadn't been listed, I may have not had an opportunity to get one. So I was listed when I was feeling fairly well, but by the time the 5 years passed, my health had deteriorated to a point where I was totally breathless. I was unable to even bend to tie my shoes. I could barely walk across a room without becoming breathless. Really everything in life was a chore, and every day was a lot of fear and panic.
I was going to ask I hate, this is a delicate question, how scared must have you been?
Yeah, and I think the most fearful thing was the fact that would I get a donor? Would it come in time? And would I be able to, would my health be at a point where I was so deteriorated that I wouldn't survive a transplant? So when I got the call, I was actually an elementary school principal, and I continued to work up to the day I got my call. But however, my productivity at my job was deteriorating to a point where I was just at the point to really discuss the idea of disability and all of that. And I got the call at work, and at that point, my health had deteriorated to the point of really I was very, very, my quality of life was nearly, was nothing. So when that call came, I was truly inspired, and my whole, all my hope
lifted immediately.
And I was, it was funny because I was sitting with a teacher at the point that the call came in, having a discussion about end of the year and getting everything together to close the school year. And when the call came in, I turned to her and I said, "We'll have to have this meeting a little later. I have to go for a lung transplant." And it just was just a wonderful, wonderful, opening to a new life for me.
I bet.
And I think I'll just be eternally grateful, first of all, to my donor, who made that decision to be a donor. But more importantly, I'm eternally grateful to his family, who honored his and respected his choice to be a donor and to follow through with it. So,
and that's what we're talking about here today, is making that choice, because that really is the extent of the effort that it requires.
Right.
Now, how can people, and thank you for sharing your story.
Oh,
It's
you're welcome.
so lovely to have you here today. And you're just so vibrant, and a double lung transplant.
Doing great.
You're doing fantastic.
I'll have my 5th year anniversary in May.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
And again, I do love that you pointed out the most important place to put your gratitude, and that's going to be with the donor and the donor's family.
Yeah, exactly.
So when it comes time, and when can you make that decision? Is this when you go get your license?
That's when most people do it, but a lot of people don't have to go back to the DMV for 10 years. You can do it right now by going to that website, every11minutes.org, the number 11minutes.org, and you can sign up right there, and you'll be in the registry, and then when you do go back to the DMV, just check yes on the DMV form, and you'll stay a donor. You'll stay an organ donor until you decide you don't want to be on it. Or if you decide you don't want to be on it, you can take yourself off the registry by going to that same website. But a lot of people have this misconception and don't sign up because they think they're too old or they can't be a donor because of some health reasons. We encourage everybody to sign up that believes in organ donation, and at the time of death, it'll be decided whether that person can be a donor. But most people can be tissue donors, whether they can be organ donors or not. So your viewers, if they think they can't be an organ donor, they can at least help somebody through tissue donation, perhaps.
Certainly, and of course, I know that I have probably no real conception of the ways I could help somebody. I mean, you can donate eyes. There's just many ways you can go, and certainly many people out there waiting at this very moment for a donation to come through that's going to save them or perhaps somebody in their family. So it really is an important thing to do, and we just encourage you to think about it and really hope that you do make that decision to save a life and give of yourself. I think you'll feel real good about that decision if you do it. And you said the easiest way to do it is to go to every 11 minutes.
.org.
Is there any other phone numbers or places people can go to participate in Donate Life Month or the Scrubs program?
You can call the LifePoint 800 number, and there's also an 800 number, 187-PASS-IT-ON. We'll get you to Donate Life South Carolina, and if you don't have access to a computer, a form can be sent to you that you fill out, mail back, and that will put you in the registry as well.
All right, wonderful. Well, I want to thank you both so much for coming in. And Jim, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
just
you
so
for
great
having
to
us.
have you here today.
Right.
And we want to thank you also, Mark, for coming in, and everyone over at LifePoint. And a quick shout out to just some of your partners or facilities here locally who are helping you.
Mm-hmm. Well, the regional hospitals around the area are part of the Scrubs program or have access to become involved.
If somebody's at the hospital, let's say they're at the emergency room or they're just in the waiting room, is there a place at the hospital you can sign up to be a donor as well?
Typically not. That's where the family makes the decision after the time of death.
Okay.
And talks to
So this is something you really do need to do in advance. This is not a last-minute decision, but it is a very good decision and one that we hope you decide to make. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for coming in today. We really appreciate the information, and somebody out there is probably waiting very patiently, and we hope that a donor might be coming from the Low Country.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You so much.
Thank you.
We thank you so much for watching Talk of the Town. Have a great day out there, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.